Hey cats, what's happening? If you're lucky enough to have an Ultra or a bigger cruiser, perhaps this video isn't so much for you. But hang around because you may find some of my stories a little bit interesting. It was back in the 1980s. I knew a guy by the name of Billy, and he was what I call a pretty hardcore biker. Billy had this old stock, probably in like a 1947 FL with the jockey shifter up on the gas tank. There wasn't anything nice about it. It was pretty much all original, and I loved that bike. I mean, I thought it was pretty neat. And he had it where it would run. Billy was the only one who could get it started. You know, if he would have asked me to start it for him, I'd have been kicking that thing all day long. But he knew just how to tweak it. Just how to set everything so that about 3 good kicks on the kickstart and it would pop to life. And then, you know, you had to hold the throttle just right there so it wouldn't stall on you until it warmed up enough where it would actually idle. But Billy, he had had a pretty rough life. When he was just a toddler, his parents were going through some real domestic issues, and Billy's father ended up taking the gun and shooting his pregnant wife. Then he turned the gun on himself and killed himself. So right there in front of the boys, a murder-suicide took place. And they left Billy and his little brother there in their diapers until somebody could come along and rescue them. Pretty traumatic for a kid to see. When they found the boys, they were, you know, sitting there with their dead parents, and as a result, they lived a pretty hard life. Billy, he never really held a decent job, so he didn't have a lot of money. And he was, as a result of some of the trauma that he went through, he had a pretty short fuse. He could get angry very, very quickly. Now, I got along with him pretty good. I never had any issues with him whatsoever. But if anybody were to irritate him, sometimes even the slightest way, he could go off like a firecracker, and you'd get an earful, if not a fistful, because he was a brawler. He really liked, or I don't know if he liked it, but he was always in a fight some way or another. Well, unfortunately, one night, you know, Billy liked to drink. He drank a lot. He liked his liquor. And he was coming home from the bar one night here in Akron, Ohio. It was after dark. It was after midnight. He was pretty inebriated, and he was on the highway. And there was one of those big orange flashing arrows, the road construction, like the lane narrowed down to one lane. They wanted you to merge to the left, and for some odd reason, we don't even know why, Billy ran smack into that big flashing arrow machine and killed him instantly. Well, it was some time later that his little brother gave me Billy's saddlebags off of that bike, off of that old FL. And the funny thing was, I don't think they were original. They were leather. They were all leather. They were old. They had seen a lot of weather. And they were mismatched. So one saddlebag was a little smaller than the other. And I don't know, that was very special to me, and I took those saddlebags and put them on my bike, and I had those on my bike for a long time. But eventually I got to the point where I wanted something a little nicer because, you know, I had one small bag on this side and a bigger bag on the other side, and it looked a little strange, but at any rate, I somehow I ordered some saddlebags for my fat boy. And these bags were specifically designed for a fat boy that I ordered. Now, they weren't very big. They were kind of sporty little things, and they kind of were like slanted back, designed a little different to match the style of the fat boy, I guess. Kind of had that swept back, bagger look, I guess. And then there's the thing. I don't know what they made those saddlebags out of. They looked really nice when I first put them on there. They had the fancy buckles and everything. But they didn't last very long. They said they were leather saddlebags when I bought them, and they might have been, but it was almost like cardboard. Like they ground up the leather and pressed it and made like fake leather. And so therefore, when it rained, they would get wet. They would soak up the water like a sponge. And they started to droop real bad. Well, the more I rode with them on there, the more they drooped. And I don't know, it really didn't bother me a whole lot, but on the same token, I didn't like it. Well, I was going down the highway one day, and somebody was beeping their horn and pointing down at the rear of my bike. Well, I'm going down the highway, probably 65, 70 mile an hour, and I look back and I see this stream of smoke coming out of my saddlebag. Like a fighter plane that just got shot down. So luckily I was within spitting distance of the truck stops, and I pulled into the big Pilot truck stop there and pulled out in the parking lot away from the fuel pumps. And my saddlebag was just smoking like crazy. Here it had actually slumped down further and further to where it was laying right on top of the exhaust pipe. And the exhaust was so hot, it caught that saddlebag on fire. Well, it was kind of smoldering like a red hot ember, like a charcoal. And I opened the saddlebag up, and I'm pulling everything out of there. I don't remember what I had in there, a bandana or something, a neck wrap, a hat for cold weather riding. I had another pair of gloves in there, but everything was like red hot smoldering coals. It wasn't flaming, but it was almost there. If I would have blew on it a little bit, it would have burst into flames. So I'm pulling everything out of my saddlebag, and I'm throwing it out in the parking lot. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I don't want my bike to burn up, The saddlebag itself was still smoldering, and I couldn't get it. I tried, I burnt my hand pretty good trying to get the fire out, trying to get those coals out, and I had emptied everything out of there, but the pressed leather, or whatever it was made out of, was still smoldering, and just like a cigar, I couldn't get it out. So I ran inside the store, and I think they gave me a big Dixie cup or something full of water, and I went out there and poured it in my saddlebag, and just where the steam blew out of there. And thank God I was able to get the fire out. That was the end of those saddlebags. Time to find something nicer. And I think it was if I remember right, I ordered them on eBay. But I made sure this time that they were 100% weatherproof. I didn't want so much 100% leather. Leather's nice, but if it's 100% leather, leather doesn't like to get wet. And it'll warp, it'll dry out, get cracks, dry rotted. So I don't know what these were made out of, but bought them online. They weren't super expensive, but they were 100% weatherproof. So here's the saddlebags I have on there today. You see, they're pretty nice. They got a nice design in them. And they got the straps, the buckles, just pretty simple. And I've had them for quite a few years now, and for all purposes, it looks like, you know, it looks like real leather, but I'm not sure what it's made out of. But it's very, very durable. It's got a nice kind of a matte finish on there. I didn't put any F11 on these yet. They need cleaned up, obviously. But they're nice big deep bags, so they got a lot of room in there. You'll see I got my winter hat in there in case the weather gets cold. My kickstand support. And I can put a jacket in there, or, you know, V rides with me, a thrower purse in there or whatever. So those are nice. And then the other thing I realized too, when I bought these, I ended up having to get this bracket. So this is a saddlebag bracket that kind of holds the bag away from the tire so it doesn't rub on your tire. Now, something else I need to mention, when I got these saddlebags, they were separate, 2 bags. I had to add this saddle strap that goes across the fender. So this piece, and it's probably about, I don't know, 8 inches wide. And I had popped a couple rivets in there just to hold it, and then I took it somewhere and they sewed the 2 saddlebags together, so they were completely supported with that leather strap going across there, which is covered up by the seat and you can't see it. Now the other thing I have for luggage is this little tool bag up here, and I don't ever buckle it, so I can easily get into it. But I keep an extra pair of goggles in there, some duct tape, and I always keep a little bit of change in there, and I've got my highway Bible too. So if something ever happens and I'm down and out and I'm stuck somewhere, I have the good word to look at and kind of, you know, give me some encouragement. Well, this old watch that I put here, it keeps the time pretty good. I can look down and see what time it is. Just a little Velcro thing I strapped around a tree there. So there you go, and that just sits behind my windshield. It's not really tied on in any way. You see, it just kind of stuck back there nicely. But then I can, you know, keep a few tools. There's a few tools down in the bottom of that thing in case I need to tweak something. But there you go. That's the story of my saddlebags. Hey, did you ever have saddlebags like this and you forget to buckle them, and when you go down the road they fly up like this, like a wing, and they'll just flap like that? I just saw some other guy going down the road the other day like that with his saddlebag flapping in the wind, and he was clueless. Been there, done that. So there you go, guys. That's my story on the saddlebags for today. Till next time, ride hard and die free. 1, 2, 3, 4.